Just imagine for a moment that there was a remedy that had all these amazing healing powers, gave you more energy, relieved your pain and made you live longer, and it didn't have any side effects. What kind of powerful remedy could that be? This could be a big hit on the pharmaceutical market. However, this product can't be produced artificially or bought. Luckily for us, it's an innate human power. It's so interesting to see how our bodies react to different situations. Experiments have shown that men can't stand the immersion of a hand in ice water for twice as long when they're next to a woman. She doesn't even have to do anything, just being there is enough. There have been lots of studies looking at how long men live if they're in a partnership or not. The results were a little different, but they all pointed in the same direction. One study from Switzerland says that married men or those with a partner live 2 years longer than unmarried men. Another one from Harvard, which of course refers to the USA, even speaks of 7 years. So it's pretty clear that having a partner can help you live longer. I think I've got a good idea of how we could use this energy. I've spent the last 3 decades researching the archetypal properties of plants for a reason. At the start of the 1990s, I spent a few years working closely with pregnant women, young moms, midwives and other people in the field to learn from them. At the time, my main goal was to find out which flower essence were best for supporting women energetically during pregnancy and in preparation for labor and afterwards. After all, things don't always go as planned, and I've never met a pregnant woman who didn't have any doubts at some point. It's always good to lend a helping hand when you can. As it turned out over the years, it made sense that some flowers were needed more often than others. The pomegranate blossom was definitely the most useful. I'd already realized that it could have a kind of archetypal power. One of the midwives involved in the research received a watercolor of a still life as a thank you for her work from an artist who had become a mother with her support. It shows a bowl with pomegranates. How did she come to choose this particular motif? I was reading a book about the role of women in spirituality and religion, and it made me realize something else. Until then, it was not clear to me that the creation stories of Islam and Christianity were identical. Now I learned that the story of Eve and Adam is part of both religions. In the corresponding chapter, I came across a historical Islamic drawing. Eve hands Adam a pomegranate. Excuse me, shouldn't that actually be an apple? It's thought that the Garden of Eden was located in the Middle East. This is based on what Genesis 2 says, which is that there's a river that flows out of Eden and then divides into 4 branches. The rivers mentioned are the Pishon, Gihon, Tigris and Euphrates. In the book of Moses, the land is called a good land where pomegranate trees blossom. If you use the location to explore the plant world in early prehistoric times, you realize that there were no apples there at all, not even its predecessor. The crab apple, which is also not very suitable for seduction purposes. Eve could perhaps have hit Adam on the head with it. What was available, however, were pomegranates. Now, of course, I was hooked. I wondered what other references there might be to a link between female power and pomegranates. It was easy to pursue this question because I came across clues everywhere in the most diverse countries and cultures. In all of these places, the fruit was seen as a symbol of femininity. It was also used for a wide variety of healing and other purposes, many of which had something to do with women. One use of the pomegranate peel was as a contraceptive diaphragm. There were recipes made with pomegranate syrup and cinnamon to help with morning sickness during pregnancy. It was also used as an oracle. Young women in the Middle East who wanted to know how many children they would have threw a fruit onto the ground with all their might. The number of seeds that popped out would indicate how many children they would have. In South America, women who wanted to have children wrote their wish on a piece of paper, stuck it between two halves of a pomegranate and let it float down the Amazon River to the gods. It seems that people in areas where pomegranates were found, which you can buy almost everywhere today, saw the fruit as a symbol of women's strength. I also find it interesting that modern medicine has taken an interest in it, and not just since yesterday. Recent studies have shown that pomegranates can help to combat prostate cancer. Aside from the study by Erasmus University in Rotterdam, which has gained a lot of attention here in the Netherlands, there are other studies too that highlight this effect. It's not a miracle cure, but it can help to control the growth of the tumor. They measure the so-called PSA value, which indicates the amount of prostate-specific antigen. If the levels are too high, it can be an early sign of cancer. A study by Johns Hopkins University in the USA showed that drinking a quarter liter of pomegranate juice a day can slow down the increase in this value. This type of cancer often grows slowly, so treatment is not always needed. I know of at least one case where the patient was diagnosed 15 years ago and is still alive without any further treatment, apart from drinking the juice, with no symptoms. Perhaps Adam had a prostate problem when Eve gave him the pomegranate. But there is something else. There's a substance that could be useful in treating Alzheimer's disease. It's called urolithin A and was tested on mice first. The study, published in Alzheimer's and Dementia, shows that it has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. The study showed that the brain's inflammatory centers had shrunk and immune cells had calmed down after 4 to 5 months. Damaged mitochondria, which produce energy in cells, were fixed, and the harmful beta amyloid, which clogs synapses, was reduced. Urolithin A can now also be given to humans, but this has proved to be less successful than encouraging the body to produce it naturally. Actually, that's not quite true. It's not the human body that produces it, but rather the bacteria in the gut. Gut microorganisms use polyphenols to make urolithin A. They get them from pomegranates, in which they are present in large quantities. While there's a lot to celebrate, we're not quite there yet in terms of euphoria. Let's wait for the first human trials to begin. We're looking for a few volunteers with memory disorders who would be willing to eat pomegranates. I think that should be doable. Let's go back to basics and remember that the essence isn't extracted from the pomegranate itself, but from the blossom that develops from it. In my research with women who are trying to get pregnant in the 90s, the essence proved to be really helpful. I don't want to overemphasize it. This work does not meet the requirements of a scientific study. However, I did receive fairly frequent feedback that women had become pregnant during or after taking the essence. So you can at least call it anecdotal evidence. The properties of pomegranate have been known since ancient times. It was not only associated with the Greek goddesses Aphrodite and Persephone. In Phoenicia it was Tanit, in Egypt Hathor, in Persia Anahita, in Hinduism Lakshmi and Parvati. The name of the Sumerian goddess with an affinity for pomegranates was Inanna, and that of her Babylonian colleague Ishtar. This accumulation of associations between female deities and the fruit cannot be a coincidence. In her book of the same name, American psychiatrist Jean Shinoda Bolen says that there are goddesses in every woman, which indirectly links the fruit to femininity. What impact does the pomegranate essence have on the inner woman? What did we learn from the anecdotal evidence at the time? Firstly, it confirmed what we had already suspected, namely that the effect of the pomegranate can be well explained by the yin-yang symbol. It seems that for a healthy whole to be created, both male and female energy must be in balance. Although their dominance changes in a certain rhythm, one of the two energies never takes over completely. This is particularly true because at their core, both also possess characteristics of the other. We can see what happens when the balance is thrown off, whether that's because one energy is dominant or weak when we read the news. All you have to do is ask who started the war. Was it a well-balanced, a yin or a yang person? If Jungian Jean Shinoda Bolen is right and every woman has an inner goddess, then it makes sense to encourage this power when a woman feels tired, overwhelmed or annoyed. And when a man gets carried away with fantasies of omnipotence. The pomegranate represents the energy of yin, which is the feminine in nature. The blossoms symbolize love, both spiritual and physical, while the countless seeds are seen as proof of fertility. Its masculine parts, like the small white yang point in the large yin, are reflected externally or materially. For example, the positive effect on the prostate is one such reflection. So yin energy isn't just good for women, it can also help men find their inner balance. However, most of our knowledge comes from women, of course. We've got feedback from pregnant women, mothers, and around 100 midwives who worked with our essences. From an acupuncture point of view, yin is a female form of energy which is mainly stored in the conception meridian on the center line of the front of the body, irrespective of the person's gender. If there's not enough energy in this meridian, it can make you more likely to get sick. For example, it can increase the risk of infection. It can also affect a woman's self-esteem and confidence. Going back to the topic of infertility, there's a greater chance of being unable to conceive if there's a lack of yin energy than if there's a sufficient supply of the corresponding meridian. A muscle test can quickly show if the essence is providing the missing energy. If you feel weak and unsure, try pomegranate. The essence is given at birth through an acupuncture point in both ears, specifically the fork of the antihelix. This is a Y-shaped cartilage in the outer ear. The essence is put on a cotton bud and massaged into the shenmen, which is also known as the uterine point, using light circular pressure. This can be useful if the labor isn't progressing or if the woman is experiencing cramps, regardless of whether there is too much or too little energy. You can massage the essence in at a slower, calming or faster, stimulating rhythm. In terms of emotions, it's about finding a healthy balance between the two energies we call yin and yang. Self-awareness simply means being aware of yourself. Firstly, it's about becoming aware of how you feel, noticing it, and then taking action when it's not as good as it could be. For example, when your self-esteem, especially the female self-esteem, is at rock bottom. It doesn't matter who you are or how you feel. If you don't accept yourself, your life will remain underdeveloped. If you don't show your full range of skills and abilities, you're limiting your own potential and missing out on the full experience of life. This also applies to those muscle-bound motorcyclists who neglect their feminine side. In a society where ideas from those in power tend to prevail, some women feel they have to adopt traditionally masculine traits to succeed. I think it would be better for everyone, men and women alike, to use their own energies instead of trying to copy others. It's a simple question. Do you want to be original or plagiarize? Letting your inner goddess shine, or let's say it a little less pathetically, your inner woman, will make women stronger and men more mindful. It's about building on what you've already got, not detracting from it or devaluing it. The pomegranate helps you feel good about yourself, accept who you are, grow and find your place in the world. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, the inner power of the feminine will help you.